Drop a little science on you. Somebody complete this for me?
Power.
Knowledge is power, right? That's what we learn every day, right? Knowledge is power. But when you know better, you're supposed to be able to do better, right? But that's not always the case. Sometimes we know better, but just don't know how to do better. So knowledge is not necessarily power. This is what I like to say. Knowledge is only potential power. Knowledge is only potential power. It's what you do with the knowledge that you have that makes it powerful. Knowledge is not powerful by itself. There's a lot of smart people that's in prison. There's a lot of smart people that's in the graveyard. That's because they didn't apply it. They didn't apply the knowledge. So it was only potential. And see, growing up, one of the things I used to always hear about my life is potential. People used to always tell me, Casey, you have potential. You have potential. That's what everybody would always tell me, you got potential. But I never took note of that. And I used to always look at potential like a negative word. Because people would always tell me I'm not living up to my potential. I wasn't living up to my potential, but I knew better. I knew better. I knew that I had the knowledge, but I just didn't apply it. How many freshmen are in the room? I'm going to describe my high school career starting off with my freshman year. My freshman year, I went out for the football team. Anybody play on the football team? I went out for the football team. And on this particular day, we were doing what's called up-downs. Anybody know what up-downs are? Yes. Somebody tell me what up-downs are, sir. I can't hear you. Say it again. Anybody know what up-downs are? Somebody tell me what up-downs are, sir. Okay. You run in place, and when the coach blows the whistle, you hit the ground and jump back up and start running until he blows the whistle again. Well, this particular day, brand new to the school, freshman, I went out for the football team. We were doing what's called tour days. And this day we were doing up-downs. We did so many up-downs that I couldn't feel my legs anymore. I couldn't feel my arms anymore. All I could think about is the pain. All I could think about is I wanted to quit. In the back of my mind, I had a number, and that number was 5. I knew I could only do 5 more before I gave up. And in that 5, I wanted to make sure I was hoping in the back of my mind, I was hoping that coach called practice, that practice would be over soon. Because I knew in my mind I could only do 5 more. And in the back of my mind, I started counting down those 5. And when I got to 1 and hit the ground, I was hoping that when I got up, coach would call practice. But he kept going. And when I did that last one, I got up and walked off the field. I quit. I heard you guys say earlier today, I will never quit. See, I had the knowledge of quitters never win. Winners never quit. But I didn't apply that knowledge. I didn't apply that knowledge. So it was only potential power. When I walked out that field, I didn't just quit on myself, I quit on my teammates. I quit on all the people who cared about me. I quit on all the people who believed in me. And after that day I quit, it became easier and easier to do it. Anything you do in life becomes easier and easier to do it. The more you do it, the easier it gets. So I quit time after time after time again. People began to know me as a quitter. People began to associate me with quitting. Well, as a kid, one of the things I used to do, I used to go in the store. And it was nothing for me to walk in the store, grab a candy bar off the shelf, and put it in my pocket and walk out the store. Every time I went in the store and got what I wanted, put it in my pocket and walked out, it got easier and easier to do it. People began to know me as a thief. That's what I began to do, liar, thief. And these things led to other things down the line. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago, my dad gave me a package of all the things he had saved throughout my lifetime. Some of the things he had saved is all of my progress reports from high school, from my freshman year to senior. And I began to read all these notes, all these progress reports. And all the progress reports said things like, George is failing. Everyone said I was failing. Some of them would begin to say, he comes to class unprepared. No pencil, no paper, no book. Unprepared. See, the more I did that, the more I came to class unprepared, the easier it became for me to be unprepared. Unprepared. All the way up until my senior year of high school, my guidance counselor sat me down and she asked me, what am I going to do with my life? What are my plans after high school? I didn't have any plans after high school. I wasn't prepared. I was used to quitting. I was a thief. I was all these things, but I wanted to be something more. So what I told my guidance counselor was something just off the top of my head. Everybody was going to college after school, so I thought that was a good thing for me to do. I planned to go to college. And my guidance counselor looked at me and she said, no, I don't think college is good for you. I don't think college is good for you. You maybe need the military. So in my mind, my guidance counselor was telling me I wasn't good enough. But I was going to show her. So when I graduated high school, I went to college. I spent my first year at University of Louisville, in Louisville, Kentucky. And when I found out that nobody was there to make sure I went to class, or basically nobody cared if I even showed up. The first day of class, the teachers told us, I'm not going to take attendance. It's your responsibility to be here when class is in session. It's your responsibility to get the notes for the test. But what happened is I began to stop going to class altogether. I never went. When I got my report card, I got a bunch of insufficient. I got a couple F's, and I dropped a couple classes, and I eventually dropped out of college. Eventually dropped out. So I went back on the block and I started hanging out. I went back to the things I was used to doing, hanging out, partying, having a good time, stealing. It led me to some other things that I'm not proud of to this day. And one of the things that led me to was being homeless. In high school, I would have never thought that me, one of the cool kids, and it's the pressure. It's pressure in school to be popular, to be one of the popular kids. And I succumbed to that pressure. And I didn't live up to my potential. I knew better, but just didn't do better. I knew better, but just didn't do better. Homelessness led me to Hinesville, Georgia, where I stayed a couple of days with my cousin. And my cousin looked at me, and this wasn't what she was used to seeing. She knew I wasn't doing well in life. I would hustle and scramble here and there, make a couple of dollars here and there how I could. But my cousin was the one that changed my life. She sat me down in that caring spirit, and she looked at me. My cousin looked at me like no one had ever looked at me in my life. She sat me down, and she asked me, George, what are you going to do with your life? Now, at that time, I had entertained the notion of going into the military. Anybody plan on going to the military after high school? What branch?
Navy.
Anybody else? What branch, ma'am?
I would like to be what it is, forgot. Air Force.
Air Force. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Air Force. All right. So I told my cousin I had talked to a Marine Corps recruiter. And the Marine Corps recruiter told me that he can get me in. And my cousin looked at me again. She said, no, don't just think about it. That's what you need to do. You need a little discipline in your life. You need some structure in your life. And I ended up joining the United States Marine Corps. United States Marine Corps. Then when I got to Parris Island, South Carolina, where you have Marine Corps boot camp, when I got to the island, I was the same person when I arrived. I was no different than when I arrived. I was that same thief. I was that same quitter. I was that same person who had low self-esteem, who didn't know my value, who didn't know my own worth. I was that same person. But when I got there, I knew something started to change. And I knew differently when I had done what's called the initial strength test. They give you what's called an initial strength test. And it's three things. You do crunches, a series of pull-ups, and you got to run a mile and a half in less than 13 minutes. So I didn't have a problem doing the pull-ups, didn't have a problem doing the crunches, but when it came to that mile and a half run, I quit because that was what I was used to doing. It became easy to me. Even with drill instructors yelling at me, sometimes more than 5, yelling at me, I still quit. I still gave up. But that night when I laid down and I went to sleep, a couple of tears dropped. I knew at that point, I knew I needed something better in my life. I thought about what would happen if they sent me out of there. What would I go back to? There was nothing for me to go back to. There was nothing for me to go back to. All my friends to this day are still doing the same thing we were doing in high school, the same thing we were doing after high school. So sometimes you have to leave your friends, and you have to cut all ties, and you have to go to that point of no return, that point that says, I can't turn back right now if I wanted to. The only way for me to go is through. The only way for me to go is straight. The only place for me to go is forward, onward and upward. I talked to a drill instructor who again would change the course of my life. He told me 7 words that would change the course of my life. First he told me, Casey, I'm gonna bust your freaking heart. I'm gonna bust your freaking heart. But then he told me something else. He told me pain is only weakness leaving the body. Pain is only weakness leaving the body. You see, I began to believe that. And that transformation began to take place. Anybody ever heard of Romans 12:2 in the Bible? Romans 12:2 says, be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. So it comes down to changing your mind, being able to change your mind. See, if you can't change your mind, you can't change anything else. It doesn't matter who you were. It's all about who you can be, who you should be, who you will be. But you have to be able to change your mind. You have to have that discipline to change your mind. And as I began to transform, that thief, that quitter, began to transform with words like honor, courage, and commitment. I began to transform. I began to be something else. I began to be something else. I began to be something else. But I knew it was a sacrifice. I had to make a sacrifice. It wasn't too many nights that I didn't lay in my bed and think about what my people on the block were doing. But at the same time, I would think about where I was going and what I was there for. That I couldn't go back to where I came from because there's nothing there for me. My life was forward. I was going to be a new person. I was going to transform. And that's what I did. On February 23rd, 1996, I was on a parade day in South Carolina. I became a United States Marine in front of my family and friends. And that took dedication. That took commitment. That took discipline. That's all it takes to change. Knowing what you want to do and having discipline and the courage to change. So there's a guy named Rollo May who said the opposite of courage in our society is not fear. The opposite of courage, he said the opposite of courage is conformity. The opposite of fear, the opposite of courage is conformity. The opposite of courage is being what everybody else is around you. Being what everybody else is around you instead of noticing and realizing the greatness that's inside of everyone in this room. Everybody's not going to want to have that greatness, but it's there. Everybody's not going to want to be great, but it's there. Everybody's not going to want to do what it takes to be great, but you got the potential. And if you have that knowledge and you apply that knowledge, it can become power. It can become power. There's a story about about an eagle that lost his egg one day. And that eagle was found by a hen who took that egg back, and that hen laid on that egg, sat on that egg until it hatched. And what happened was, when it hatched, an eagle jumped out. that eagle was born into a chicken environment. So a lot of times we surround ourselves in a chicken environment. And what begins to happen is when we surround ourselves in that chicken environment, we begin to act and respond like a chicken. And see, that's what happened to that eagle. That eagle was born in that chicken environment and began to have chicken thoughts. It began to have chicken dreams, chicken aspirations. Again, that's where we find ourselves sometimes hanging around chickens, surrounding ourselves with chickens. And chickens know. They know when you're different. They know when you're different. All those chickens looked at that eagle and they knew that eagle was different. They knew that eagle had something great in him. But they knew they couldn't tell that eagle that he was an eagle, or he might want to try to eat him. So they never told that eagle. Until one day that eagle was out playing in the yard where his biggest aspiration was to jump up on the fence post. Just like the roosters and cock-a-doodle-doo in the morning. That's all he wanted to do. That was his biggest aspiration. Until one day he was out playing in the yard and saw a big shadow come across the ground. And see, on this day, that little chicken looked up higher than he ever looked in his life. And what he saw was an adult eagle flying, soaring through the sky. He thought to himself, wow, I wish I could do that. But that adult eagle, as he was flying, he looked down at that eagle and he saw that he was in that chicken environment, that he was pretending to be a chicken, that he didn't know that he was an eagle. And he swooped down and began to talk greatness into that eagle. He said, boy, you ain't no chicken. You ain't no chicken. You're an eagle. You were born to do great things in this lifetime. You were born to do great things. And see, that's what I'm here today to tell you, that you're here to do great things. No matter where you are in life, no matter what your past is, no matter what people want you to be, you got to realize that you're great. Stop surrounding yourself with chickens. You have to be an eagle. And see, eagles are leaders. When you look in the sky, you see birds flying. You see all these other birds. No matter what kind of birds, you see all these other birds flying in groups, flying in packs. But the eagle is different. The eagle flies alone. The eagle soars to the heights. The eagle soars to heights that the other birds only wish they can get to. They make all the other birds jealous because of their power, because of their greatness, because of their greatness. I watch the news every night, and what I see on the news, I see young people dying. I see young people killing themselves. I see young people not living up to their potential. And I have to ask myself, is it because they're living in a chicken environment? Is it because they don't know they're eagles? Is it because they don't know that they have greatness in them? The greatness starts inside. Greatness starts inside everyone. It doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you do it the honest way. But that you get there. That you get there. That you not only receive this knowledge, but you start applying the knowledge. Applying the knowledge to be greater. One of my favorite boxers, Muhammad Ali, he called himself the greatest of all time. He was my hero. One of the people I try to emulate in this lifetime. See, Muhammad Ali, he started off because somebody stole his bike. When he was 12 years old, he received a bike for Christmas. And somebody stole that bike. And all he wanted to do was get revenge on the person that stole his bike. So he went and reported it. He reported it to a police officer. And see, that police officer just happened to own a gym. So he took Muhammad Ali in and he started training him. Muhammad Ali was only looking out to get revenge. But when he came to that gym, when he started working out and training in that gym, when he started getting prepared for what was ahead, he found something greater than revenge. He found the true calling that's inside of him. See, this guy, Mark Twain, he said, the two most important days of a man's life are the day he was born and the day he finds out why. It's just a terrible thing to go through life and not know why you're here. But understand that everybody's here for a purpose. Everybody has that greatness inside them that helps them to go out into the world and help make other people great. But you have to recognize that greatness. If you don't recognize that greatness, it's a Terrible, terrible situation. But if you look around, If you want to test the theory of what I'm saying, that everything has a purpose, look at these walls. Look at these floors. Look at the doors. Look at the sun. Look at the stars. Everything that's created has a purpose. You have a purpose in life. Your mission is to find your purpose. Your mission in life is to find your purpose. And see, once you find your purpose, life changes. Life changes. The same obstacles and situations that other people go through, we don't see those obstacles anymore. All we see, we miss the obstacles and we only see opportunities. In life, either you're going to see obstacles or you're going to see opportunities. If you see obstacles, you see something in your way that's going to stop you. If you see opportunities, you see a reason to get better. When you start to go through that pain, when you start to go through this struggle and come out on that other side, it's greatness waiting on you. It's greatness waiting on you. There's a story about a butterfly that's coming out of the cocoon. A man was walking and he saw a butterfly coming out of the cocoon. And he watched for a little while and he watched that butterfly struggle as he began to push through that cocoon. And he got impatient and he said, I'm going to help this butterfly. So he took his knife out and he cut a slit in there, and the butterfly just fell out and hit the floor, hit the ground. But see what happened with a butterfly, that butterfly needs to push through that hole, that tiny hole. And what happens is when he pushes through that hole, it starts to form its body. It gives him a chance to dry his wings so he can fly. But because that man wanted to help him through his struggles, through his pain, and put the slit in there, that butterfly didn't have a chance to do those things. And again, flopped straight to the ground. So you got to look at your struggles, the things you go through in life, as something you have to go through. The struggles are what's going to make you strong. The pain is going to help you to look past and to get stronger, strengthen you. So don't stop just because it's a little pain. You got to push through the pain because your reward is on the other side of that pain. Muhammad Ali, one of the people I studied, greatness. I ask myself all the time, what makes the great great? Everybody has greatness in them, but what separates those who decide to be great from everybody else in the world? And I came up with a principle of success based on Muhammad Ali calling himself the greatest of all time. And that formula, I'm going to get that formula to you today. That formula starts with a G. Goals. You have to be able to set goals in life. When you set goals in life, it helps you to achieve things. You don't always set your goals big. You have to set some small goals. And in the process of setting your goals and accomplishing your goals, it gives you a chance to get confident in yourself, to understand your value, to understand your worth. Setting goals helps you to become the person that you want to be. Where you are, and between where you are and where you want to go, goals are going to help you get there. It's progressive steps to help you get to where you want to go. And you have to know you have to write those goals down. Not only do you have to write those goals down, you have to begin to speak them. Speak them to yourself every day. Muhammad Ali once said, I am the greatest. And I said that even before I knew I was. I am the greatest. And I said that even before I knew I was. That means he began to say it to himself over and over again, I am the greatest. I am the greatest. I am the greatest. He began to say it until other people would believe he might be the greatest. He began to say it until he began to believe himself that I am the greatest. And a belief, remember this, a belief is only something that you think over and over and over again. That's all a belief is. It doesn't matter if it's true, it's what you believe. It's a thought that you have over and over and over again. Anybody ever heard of placebo? Anybody know what a placebo is? A placebo is nothing more than some type of sugar pill. And a doctor gives it to a patient without telling them that it's a sugar pill. And he tells that patient, look, this will heal whatever you have. And because that person's mind begins to think that, okay, this will heal it, eventually it begins to believe it. And when the mind begins to believe something, whether it's true or false, the body reacts. The body reacts on it. So it's what you tend to believe yourself. If you tend to believe that your value is not worthy, and that's what it'll be. See, people doubted at the time Cassius Clay. There was a guy named Sonny Liston. They said if Muhammad Ali Cassius Clay fought Sonny Liston, he would die in the first match. He would die in the first round. That Sonny Liston would kill him. But Muhammad Ali believed different. He believed that he was the greatest. And that's what he became as he whipped Sonny Liston. Regardless of the doubters, there's always going to be somebody who doubt you are who you say you are. But a man gets what in life is life what he is, not what he wants. A man gets what he is, not what he wants. And a man is what he thinks he is. As a man thinketh, so shall he be. So when you begin to think of that greatness, think of yourself in terms of that greatness, and begin to really believe it. I heard you guys saying those words this morning, and it's easy to get into a habit of saying something. But do you really believe it? When you really begin to believe it, that's when it starts taking form. You have to set your goal. The next one is O. It's the outcome. Where do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? How does it look? How does it feel? How does it smell? Give it detail. And you have to commit to the outcome that you want to have in life. Those that want to go into the military, draw a picture of how that looks. Have that picture in your head. How many people have ever done a puzzle? See, when we do a puzzle, what we do first is look at the picture on the box. That's the only way we know how to make that picture, make our puzzle look like that picture, by looking at it. And see, that's the same thing in our head. We have to have that picture of how we want to look. And you have to commit to that picture. Commit to that outcome. Know that the things you put in is what you're going to get out. Whatever you put into something is what you get out. So if you put little to no effort, that's what you'll get in return. When you go into a situation and the situation gets tough and you decide to quit, watch out. Because that leads to other things. That leads to other things. The next one is A, accountability. You have to be accountable for your own actions. You can't blame someone else for why you're where you are. You can't blame someone else for where you are, why you are where you are. And that's one of the things I used to do all the time in my life. I used to always blame people of why I wasn't successful, or why I failed, or why I stole, or why I cheated. I used to blame everybody but myself. It wasn't until I started looking at myself that I was able to change it. I believe, like Socrates said, one of my greatest philosophers, he said, the unexamined life is not worth living. So until you're able to examine your life, to look at your life, to see where you are, to see where you're going, and can you get there faster? How can I be better tomorrow than I was yesterday? How can I be better today than I was yesterday? That's self-examination. And the last one is the thought process. T. That's the thought process. You have to really put some time and effort into thinking about who you are. You have to really put some time and effort into thinking about where you want to be in life. What do you want to become? What is your purpose in life? What is your purpose in life? And I want you to think about this. What makes the great great? Think about what makes the great.